Drew Hornback says, I wanted to ask a question about Haaland versus Mbappe. I was wondering if you think these two could become the next footballing rivalry. After the Sevilla game, Haaland said that watching Mbappe's hat-trick motivated him. Also considering that both of them could potentially be playing in La Liga someday. Who knows?
Well, they need to share the same domestic competition for, in my opinion, at least to be considered a big rivalry. Okay, we know that maybe they face each other in the Champions League once every 2, 3, 4 seasons, and maybe those matchups are great to watch, and maybe they build some kind of rivalry and all that. But in order for a great rivalry and a true rivalry to happen, the Cristiano against Messi, the Totti against Del Piero. We need to see them playing in the same domestic competition, and that's a big if, because to be quite honest with you, in order for them to play in the same competition, I only see them either in the Premier League, or if it's in La Liga, it'll be just for Madrid and Barcelona, and maybe it's bound to happen. I don't know, but just the quick point for me is that in order for it to be a true and big rivalry, in the true sense of the word, they need to share the same domestic competition and fight for the same league at the end of the year, in my opinion.
Great point. Do you see like a world where one of them is at Real Madrid, one of them is at Barcelona? Man, we really need to just pump up this Clásico, man. These last few Clásicos have been it's like watching friendlies. It's like there's no bite, there's no excitement. Yeah, I need some Mourinho, and I need some Ronaldo, I need some Puyol, I need some Xavi arrogance. I need something.
Yeah, well, if Laporta wins the election for Barcelona, he definitely has a great relationship with Haaland's agent, Mino Raiola, who maybe that would be interesting to watch. Definitely to see if Laporta and Barcelona have what it takes to bring Haaland in the current financial situation. It's a big if for sure. But well, I'd say that it's that other scenarios are more unlikely than this one. We know that Mbappe is Real Madrid are very interested in Mbappe, and we still don't know how that is going to unfold and how it is going to happen, if it happens. And all we know is that Raiola, Haaland's agent, and quite possibly the next Barcelona president, Joan Laporta, have a great relationship. So maybe that's there's a way Haaland joins Barcelona in the future, and then Mbappe ends up in Real Madrid, and that would be great for audiences for sure.
Obviously, Real Madrid fans listening to this just want both of them. I just think watching these two play, and then look, this is not reactionary. This is not just based on what happened this week. This has been Haaland has, I think, like 18 goals in 13 games or something stupid like that. Mbappe has been a superstar for a few years now, really. And so just watching them play, I feel like I'm watching like the next generation.
Yeah,
I really feel like this is real. Sometimes I remember a few years ago, the common narrative was that the top 3 young players to have were Mbappe, Asensio, and Ousmane Dembele. I just feel like now we have like a few years where we can fast forward and we can kind of see who is real and who is not. Mbappe and Haaland, I think, are kind of going to be the real deal. I really do. And I think it kind of feels like I'm watching the next Ronaldo Messi thing, or like the next Di Stefano Kubala thing, where like these two are separated because football wanted them to be separated. To create some kind of rivalry, or it's almost like I feel like they're like the Doncic and Giannis of football right now.
Mm-hmm. Look, Kiyan, I'll make it like really quick and very simple. Real Madrid just can't afford not to sign at least one of those two for the future. I'm not talking about next summer. I'm talking about Real Madrid have to do whatever it takes to have one of these two players playing for them in the next 4 or 5 seasons, say. I think it's just that simple. Whatever it takes, no matter what it takes. If it takes, rebranding your own stadium to a petrol company, then you do it. If it takes, I don't know, sell half of the roster because you need to find the money to sign Mbappe and pay his salary and his current contract, then you do it. I think it's that simple. They have to do whatever it takes to at least sign one of those.
So can you indulge me a little bit more? I'm very curious to know where you stand on this, because there's this debate right now about like how much Real Madrid, how much money they can have, like how much can they actually dish out, and the financial situation is not great. Obviously, it's better than some clubs, and it's worse than other clubs. It's because one of the things that some fans will say, like, okay, well, we don't have the money, so here's a list of players we can sell. This player, 10 million. Isco, 40 million. This player, that million, whatever. Like, so a list of like 10 players.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's easy. Like that doesn't. That would be very nice in a utopian ideal world. I don't think that that's how it works. I can do that in FIFA, where I can just put a bunch of players and say these are the prices, and within 10 minutes raise a bunch of money. It's just much more different in this landscape. Also, some of the players that are commonly listed are not going to be easy. Like teams just don't want them. Like I saw the other day, let's put Odriozola on the market, get like a few million for him. Like, tell me which big club wants Odriozola? Like who?
Exactly. They don't even want him on loan.
They don't, like, he went to Bayern, and I forgot he was literally at Bayern until I saw him like sneak into the trophy celebration at the end. They didn't play him. And I think with like the path for Odriozola is really like he just goes back to Real Sociedad or something like that. But just like, how does this add up? Do you think
it doesn't?
So what's this? So how do you think Florentino? Do you think he can find a path to sign one of these guys despite the situation?
I think he just has to weather the current context and weather the storm, and hope that the COVID situation goes away and Real Madrid end up improving their financial situation through ticketing and all that, and obviously finishing the works at the Bernabeu would also be very helpful from a financial perspective. But I don't think he has a choice right now. I think, look, as you mentioned, I keep seeing on Twitter people saying that Real Madrid would get like 15 million for Odriozola, then 30 million for Isco, 30 million for Militao and whatever, and that's not realistic. First of all, they need to sell Bale. Because Bale is coming back to Madrid next summer. That's for sure. After, it's very controversial in London between Bale, Mourinho, and even Tottenham and the whole fan base. So Bale is coming back, even if it's just for one summer. But Real Madrid still owe him like 30 million a year. So Florentino can't do anything this summer. He just can't. So he has to weather the storm and hope the COVID situation goes away, and all of a sudden Real Madrid's financial situation improves, and then more cross his own fingers and hope that Mbappe doesn't sign an extension with PSG, so that he can actually sign in as a free agent, which won't be as easy, in my opinion, if Zidane walks away next summer. Like, it's very complicated. It's not easy, but I'm saying that Florentino has to do whatever it takes. If it keeps Zidane, if it means convincing Zidane of staying just another season, just to improve your odds of landing Mbappe, then so be it. I think it just has to be whatever it takes.
So this is an interesting discussion, and I get the sense that you're also talking about the long game. You're not saying that Florentino can necessarily sign these guys now, but maybe down the road.
Now it's impossible. Yeah. I'm saying the next 3-4 seasons maybe. Like, I'm not saying that Florentino needs to sign them both next summer. It's impossible. It's not realistic at all. But if you can do it this next summer or in the following one, in the next 3, 4, 5 seasons. Like, I think it's just a do or die thing here. To be quite honest with you, I think Real Madrid have to do whatever it takes to at least land one of those players in the next 4 or 5 seasons.
Do you think PSG would risk losing him for free and letting his contract run out?
That's $1 million question. After his performance against Barcelona, it would be ridiculous for me to imagine PSG not giving him twice of what he wants just to keep him. It's just a matter of whether actually Mbappe is that desperate about leaving the PSG or not. If he's just considering his own options, and maybe he's not sure about what decision to make and all that, I expect PSG to just, again, if Mbappe wants 40, I expect PSG to offer him 80 after what he did the other day. It's just they cannot lose Mbappe nor for free, nor for a transfer if they want to be taken seriously, and that's something PSG want. They
So
they
yeah,
they want to be considered a big club in European football, and they know they wouldn't be considered a big club if they sell him or let Mbappe go.
I think it's also interesting because like you see a lot of people say like, look, if you're going to lose him for free, you have to sell him. Like, you can't let him walk for free. And
I don't agree.
You do or you don't.
No, I don't.
So I get that point of view. I understand it. Like this is what
Same.
happens in sports and contracts. I understand. I think it depends on the player. If I'm let's say if I'm losing Odriozola for free, then I want to sell him, right? If I'm losing Mbappe for free, I would think long and hard. And this is when I go into GM mode and how I would do it. To me, the goal is to win the Champions League, right? So if I get Mbappe for just one more year and I win the Champions League that year, I would be at peace with losing him for free because I feel like the job is done. It's like you made it to the promised land. You did what you achieved to do. You got your Kawhi. You risked it, and you won the championship, and then he left. I feel like that works in this situation.
Many things can happen. Maybe he's determined about leaving in the summer of 2022 when he enters the 2021-2022 season, but maybe he gets a long-term injury and all of a sudden Real Madrid's interest drops a lot, or as you mentioned, then maybe PSG finds some kind of competitiveness. And all of a sudden he wants an extension. So many things can happen. I wouldn't sell him if I were PSG, just because, to be quite, they just don't need the money. They just don't. I mean, they can afford pretty much every player they want on the market, and they don't need the money. So I think the whole thing of PSG are forced to sell Mbappe, because why would they let him leave as a free agent and all that? They want to be taken seriously. And what kind of message are they sending to the world of football if they sell Mbappe? That's a big point for me.
Interesting point. So yeah, it's a really interesting discussion. I'm very curious to see how it plays out. And you brought up another interesting point of would you convince Zidane to stay just to lure in Mbappe? I've really started to come around to the idea in the last, I'd say, 1 to 2 years, that the manager is important, but not as important as we think. And what I mean by that is like what matters most, obviously, is just talent, like pure talent. So, does Zidane win the Champions League if you have Mbappe and stuff? Like, despite all of the criticisms that I often give him, and I'm not opposed to going in a different direction that's not Zinedine Zidane. And to be clear, I'm not opposed to obviously staying with Zidane either. But there's a part of me that thinks like, look, I actually think this squad is really, really good, and that like, you know, we think about all these superstar players that we don't have, and like all of these. There's a bunch of teams around the world who don't have superstar players who are playing really a lot better football than we are. And I do think like a different manager might get something better out of this current roster. I think it's a highly talented roster. Having said that, if you just have Mbappe on a team like this, I don't think it matters so much if your manager is Zidane or if it's somebody else. I think you can get to the promised land with a player like that. So sure. The question was like, so I want to flip your question to yourself. If Zidane staying means that lures Mbappe, like, okay, well, maybe let's flip it a different way. Do you think Zidane is ultimately a deal breaker for Mbappe, or he cares more about just playing for Real Madrid than he does play for Zidane?
I think it's a very important matter for Mbappe and for every young player growing up in France. To be quite honest with you, I think it's very important. I wouldn't say that Mbappe is not interested in signing for Real Madrid at all. If Zidane isn't the coach, I wouldn't go as far as saying that. But I'm fairly confident about the fact that growing up as a young man in France, I'm fairly sure that Zidane is definitely one of his idols, and I'm fairly sure that Zidane is a big factor. I wouldn't say, again, that is the only point that matters for him. Like I wouldn't say that Mbappe would join Tottenham if Zidane was the coach. I'm not going as far as saying that, but I'm fairly confident about the fact that it's a big factor for Mbappe to have Zidane, and maybe potentially even Zidane trying to call and convince him, or at least convincing his camp, because we know that they are not allowed to talk to each other when Mbappe is under contract and all. But anyway, I think it's a big factor.